All right, inflation.art. That was a really beautiful segue into this panel. Also, I just have to totally call attention to this absolutely gorgeous backdrop here, especially because as we were setting up yesterday, I was looking for stanchions to block off the VIP area. And I looked over at the screen and I thought these were actually real. And I was like, where did the stanchions go? They were just up front like a minute ago. Yeah, so I'm Nick Sainato, co-founder of Gamma. First off, just want to say, on behalf of Gamma, Inscribing Atlantis, Nolcha Shows, super thrilled and honored that all of you are here today. And I think, hopefully you're having fun, which is, of course, the collection we're here to talk about with Casey and Parker. So,
what's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Hey. Thanks for being here.
So I'll mostly just kind of let you two, chat, but I'll help, guide the convo a little bit. But I guess first things, just to kick things off, you guys have known each other for quite a while. We're talking decade scale. So go back as far as you can remember and just kind of, how did you meet? How did things come to be? And how did this collection come to be? Sorry, your friendship. I'm not trying to, insinuate.
Yeah, me and Parker are old as fuck, so it has in fact been decades.
Ancient.
Are you 40 now?
Cool, Casey. Thanks for kicking it off.
Yeah, no, I'm 41. It's cool. We're middle aged, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we met. We were 15. Yeah, we met. We were going to neighboring high schools. I went to Aerosmith Academy in Berkeley, which is the shittiest school. It was so bad. It was, yep. But and Parker went to Maybeck, a neighboring high school.
Well, what had happened was on the first day of high school, my new girlfriend, we were getting a tour of the school in a group, and we were outside, and this new girlfriend of mine, she ran up to me and she was like, "Oh my God, there's that guy. I'm obsessed with him. Look at him." And she pointed.
Is that Meredith?
Yeah. So she pointed at this boy who was rolling a cigarette, sitting on the curb, and I was like, yeah, he looks pretty cool. And then I don't know how we actually met, but that's how I found.
Yeah, so we've known each other for a long time. I was just a normal high school degenerate. Parker has always been into photography, though. You were taking pictures back then.
Yeah, I have one of you in my garage I came across recently that I actually printed in my black and white darkroom class in high school. It was a portrait I took of you on the Cal campus. And you look exactly the same. Not a day over 15.
And so, yeah, but we kept in touch over the years. I think the first sort of Bitcoin related thing that we talked about or that happened was the haircut.
Yes.
So yeah, Parker, you were, before your illustrious photography career began, you were doing mobile haircuts.
That's right. I had a period of time where I just got frustrated with photography and not knowing how to make a living with it, or as an artist, because I didn't want to be a commercial photographer, really. I was just always a weirdo shooting strange characters. And so I just sort of ended up going to beauty school and then cutting hair. And amazingly, the skills that I got from beauty school really translate into what I do in character creation. But yeah, while I was doing the haircuts, Casey was like, "Hey, I want you to cut my hair, and I'm gonna pay you." I'm like, yes, sir, you shall. He said, "But I'm gonna pay you in Bitcoin."
So this was 2014?
It's 2014, yeah.
Yep. Do you know how much the haircut wound up costing me in today's Bitcoin dollars?
I think by the time I sold that portion of Bitcoin, it had to have been a $500 haircut easily. Yeah. But I've bought and sold Bitcoin so much over the years since then. But I wish I had noted your zeal for Bitcoin, because I was just oh, this is a cool novelty, So yeah, because you were kind of like chill about it. You should have been like up on the
no,
soapbox
it's actually
in
a regret that I
2014.
had. Like I would tell anybody who I knew about Bitcoin, but I'm like, I don't know if the price is going to go up or down. So I'd never say like, oh, you should definitely buy it, even though I was like buying as much as I possibly could. So yeah, I should have been a little bit more persuasive. But yeah, after, I mean, I don't really know. Your first big collection was the solo show icons that you did in 2017. What
That's
was
right.
the path from 2014, giving me a haircut, having sort of not making photography your career focus, to 2017 when you debuted Icons, which was a sort of surprise smash hit?
That's a great question. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So I moved to LA in late 2014, and I had just turned 30. So I was like, okay, I still wanted to be an artist and really live my dream as an artist, doing art my way on my terms. And at the age of 30, I was kind of like, if not now, when? Just moved to LA. I was like, this is the perfect place, perfect time, perfect opportunity. I'm gonna go for it, or go broke or die trying. And just very rapidly dove into forging my art style, which here it is, very like lurid colors, character portraits, really blurring the line between a fantastical persona and an authentic one. And LA was the perfect place for it because there's so much theatricality in the air. And a little gallery by the name of Super Chief, what up, Ed, was just like the perfect gallery for me. And they hosted my first solo show in 2017, which was a smash. Like over 1,000 people in attendance. Like so many people came in crazy costumes, and I had my models come in the same costumes that I photographed them in. So it's just like this kind of, once again, like blurring the line between reality and fantasy. You know, they came off of the wall into the room, and then you were like, hey, Parker.
Well, yeah, like I saw the Icons, which is sort of like a similar portrait style as Fun. And at the time, CryptoPunks had just started to blow up, right? And PFP projects were starting to blow up. And I was like, hey, Parker, you should do NFTs back in 2017. And like I got a domain, and like we were starting to talk about it. And then eventually Parker was like, no, this is just a distraction from my like real career, you know.
I forgot you got the domain.
Yeah, icons.la. It still
Yeah.
redirects to your collection.
You're such a visionary. Like, really, anything you say from now
That's
on.
not true. That's
I'm
not
just
true.
gonna
That's
be
not
like,
true.
Yes.
People only
Go
remember the
on.
things that I'm right about, but I have like only like a 5% hit rate because I say a lot of things, you know? But yeah, and now, so 2017, I'm telling you to do photo NFTs, but you ignored me. I assume this is a deep and lifelong regret of yours.
Constantly kicking myself. Yes. And then it wasn't until 2021 I started making NFTs on Ethereum with Foundation, and then through Super Chief and Quantum released a big collection of 200 of the Icons portraits. So taking the 100 original ones and then expanding it with more I had shot in the intervening years. But that was a collection that was of pre-existing work, whereas Fun was devised and designed for, you could say NFTs, but beautifully, now they're manifested on Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I mean, we started talking about Fun, I think in like early 2022.
Right.
Yep. It's right around when I started working on Ordinals. I think I go back in my email to figure out when I started talking about Ordinals, and there's an email to Eric Sirion, who is a Bitcoin developer who created Fedimint back in like December of 2021, where I was trying to figure out how you could put things on Bitcoin that could be transferred, because Bitcoin doesn't really have anything that has persistence, right? You have a wallet, but your wallet should not be reusing addresses, even though probably everybody here uses a wallet that reuses addresses. And Bitcoin UTXOs, which are sort of the vessels of Bitcoin on the blockchain, aren't permanent. When you create a transaction that spends them, it destroys UTXOs and it creates a new UTXOs. And so I went through a bunch of different iterations of like, okay, well, how could you have something on chain that could persist and that you could send with a transaction? And late 2021, I emailed Eric and I was like, hey, I think you can like number the sats and you can track sats across transactions. And this would be sort of like a hallucination that everybody could opt into. And once you have these trackable sats, then you can assign content to them and then they can be like NFTs. And then a few months later, I don't remember why we started talking about it, but started being like, hey, Parker, like you should do like a big collection, like something that's much larger than the 100, 200 series that you had done and make it very much designed to be a PFP collection or to be a, you know, sort of a larger collection.
Yeah, after the success of the icons, NFTs on Ethereum with Quantum and Superchief, you called me up and this time I listened because, okay, 2014, dropped the ball, 2017, dropped the ball, 2022, all right, I'm listening to Casey. So Casey said, you should go even bigger, go harder, do 10,000. I think you literally said do 10,000.
Yeah, I think I might have. That might have been a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, and I shoot on film. There's a lot of costuming, clearly. This is not generative art.
Yeah, and there's no Photoshop or anything.
Yeah, it's very labor intensive. But I listened to Casey, and Casey said, I will back the production of this. And I was like, okay, so now it's
and I think
real.
And also like the other thing that I agreed to do is like, you know, me and Parker made a little contract between the two of us and it's like, okay, she's gonna shoot the photos and Casey is gonna write the smart contract to like deploy the NFTs. Because originally I thought I was probably gonna do it on Ethereum. I was working on this, you know, weird Bitcoin thing, but I didn't want to push the idea of doing it on Bitcoin. I didn't know if any of this was going to work. And even if it did work technically, even if I did produce something that let you make NFTs on Bitcoin, I didn't know if there would be a community. I didn't know if there would be a market. And obviously I'm like very ideologically aligned towards Bitcoin, but I wouldn't want to push Parker into doing something that just didn't make, you know, financial sense. So yeah, the smart contract for, you know, deploying the NFTs, it kind of wound up being Ordinals somehow.
Yeah, thankfully. I remember Casey said, if we release this on Ethereum, I'm not going to be publicly associated with it. So I think it's really beautiful that things converged in this way. And aside from my relationship with you and now my belief in everything you say, Ordinals are amazing for artists because the art actually exists on chain, on the mother chain forever. And as an artist, I'm always thinking about how my art is going to live and be perceived decades down the road. So now my art will have longevity in a way that's just not possible anywhere else. You know, prints get damaged in one show. You know, my negatives could burn up in a house fire. Bitcoin's not going up in a house fire. And part of the art of fun is this story, is how it was made. And the PFP formula is a part of the art itself. And my art speaks to the creation of our egoic identities, our personas, and how you can see that in the context of a formula, the different elements that compose how we present ourselves in the world, and how that persona is perceived by others, because we think of things in symbols and interact in the currency of symbols. And all currency is a symbol, really. It's a symbol of value, and we just agree to it. So yeah, I can ramble on.
No, I mean, I'm sure everyone's enjoying the backstory. I mean, so, you know, awesome backstory to the collection, 2014 till now. We've come kind of the decade that has led us to today. And so now as we're looking at, these final portraits and these artwork on the wall here, like, can you talk to us a little bit about, like, clearly there's a lot of, this is physical, film that you've captured this on. There's hundreds of traits. If you go to fun.film, you can just go through and browse through. There's like 10 different drop downs of all different things, almost as though it is a generative, 10K PFP collection. But this was done painstakingly, one by one. So can you kind of like walk us through, how did you even orchestrate all of that and manage all of that from all of the, the models or the actors, as you call them, and the props and the backgrounds, and just how did that happen?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important for the creative process to have parameters, and the panelists spoke to that beautifully in the last panel. And because that forces creativity, having those constraints. So, as an artist, I think it's good to set those constraints for yourself, even if you don't have them through, the constraints of Bitcoin, for example, and inscriptions. So from the outset, I was like, okay, we're going to have these props, these backgrounds, 100 models, 10 different moods that they perform. And
how did you, just curious, did you sort of sit down and design the look of each model before you went out and bought the props and everything necessary for them? Did you know which model you were going to shoot for which look? Like, how did that come together?
I came up with the character design as I went. So oftentimes it was like I picked out a model and then kind of came up with a character for them. So I did all of the costuming. I had amazing makeup artists that collaborated, but I did all the costuming and then used a lot of cheap wigs. Some of the characters I conceived of beforehand and then just found a model to perform them. Like, I knew I wanted a kind of Bored Ape homage, so I found the prosthetics for that, and then
it's really funny. The ape guy up there, he's an absolute babe. If you see him on Instagram, there's a hot man under that rather unpleasant ape facade.
Yeah. And yeah, oh, and then that's like the main makeup artist, Eden. She so some of them were collaborative with the model. Like, I'd talk to him and say, oh, what do you want to be? And she was like, I think I want to be like a sexy, scary, hairless cat. It's like, yeah, girl, yes, we can do that. We have the technology.
Amazing. I also like talk about like the time that this actually took, because I think one of the things you mentioned on Spaces at some point that I thought was kind of like a signal to this is in some of the shots, it's not just the models, but you have other living beings, and they aged throughout the process.
Yes, yeah. So 2 of the props are my cats, Hammy and Butternut.
If you go to fun.film, you can select Hammy and Butternut from the drop down in the site and see all the Butternut and Hammy photographs.
Yeah. There's Hammy over there. There's my little ham boy. But Butternut, like, I got her when she was just a tiny little kitten just after I started shooting. And then she like had her whole glow up through the series. And Casey posted a collage and titled it Butternut's Glow Up of all her through the shoots. And it launched 1,000 runes. And yeah.
And so it took, when was the day that you like started shooting?
May 7th, 2022.
And you finished one?
Not that long ago. So I got pregnant in May. So I remember I was like, oh God, I gotta tell Casey this series might be delayed.
I was actually really thankful for all the delays because I needed to get like features into Ord, right? Ord didn't launch with parent-child collections. Ord didn't launch with metadata. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 other things that like it didn't have. So that was actually really good. And also fees kind of came down after it was done. And this was really, really expensive to inscribe. It's 23 full blocks worth of inscriptions. They weren't made as, individual full blocks. I just kind of trickled them out over time. I wrote the script that would inscribe them. But yeah, it was a lot of data, a lot of bits.
Very, very intensive. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on that, subject, the inscribing like photography is especially challenging, like because of that size, 23 full blocks of data. For other photographers who are like trying to do this and unfortunately don't have like a best friend that is gonna front the
Thanks,
whole
bestie.
thing, like what are some tips that you can kind of recommend to people, like file types, optimization tactics? Like what did you do to kind of get this on chain?
Yeah, so I mean, Ord is limited, has a limited number of file formats that it accepts, and we intentionally sort of have we only directly support things that are very broadly supported among browsers so that they can render everywhere. And for images, this basically means that you have a choice of WebP, JPEG, PNG, GIF, and AVIF. And before we started, I didn't know, before I actually started trying to like format the images and see what size and quality we were gonna go for, I just started experimenting with all of the different image formats. And I tried WebP, tried JPEG, et cetera. And AVIF was ultimately the one that we landed on. The file size that I chose, I think, is 1152 or 1052 square. That just happens to be the largest size that they will that an image will display on Ordinals.com. I think it's other sites display them at different sizes, but that's a pretty good baseline for what like the full resolution is going to be. And then ultimately I just experimented with different image formats, and AVIF is far and away the best image format for inscribing photographs. AVIF is a lossy image compression format. It's based on the AV1 codec, which is actually a video codec. And because AV1 is a video codec and is used, among other things, for compressing film sources, AV1 deals very well with film grain. So it's actually especially good for photographs. So, I mean, ultimately, I think you just need to experiment with the file size and the trade-offs. I was worried that, I wouldn't be able to come up with something that looked good, but at 1,000 square AVIF, an average of around 100 kilobytes per image, the quality just turned out to be really good. So ultimately, yeah, experiment. There's some weird things, like, I don't know if we have any examples. Like, for example, this image actually compresses down very, very well because there isn't a lot of high frequency noise in the image. Sort of hair, these like sort of textured backgrounds. This is like the worst thing that you can try to compress. So I think if you're a photographer and you want to like really like squeeze the lemon as much as you can, avoid high frequency noise. And by high frequency noise, I just mean anything that's like static or changes a lot in your photographs. That can make a dramatic difference. But also, like the costliness is the mother of scarcity, and scarcity is the mother of value. So I think that like one thing that makes this collection good is like a lot of suffering went into it, right?
Yes.
A lot of time, a lot of money to like make the photographs, and ultimately money to make the to actually inscribe them. So you can try to make things as cheap as possible, but I don't even know if that's like a good strategy.
So I'm told we have to wrap up pretty soon. I have two more questions. One is something that I'm personally curious about. One is for the degens I promised I would ask. So the first one is, like this collection, it's now on Bitcoin. It hopefully will outlive us all. Like, what do you hope that, the next generation sees, feels, thinks when they see, this? Is it just for the fun, or is it for something beyond that? And then I guess like at the tail end, maybe if there's any alpha drops on when.
Well, it's really amusing for me to think about as someone recovering this data hundreds and hundreds of years from now and trying to understand humanity in the year 2024 based on these characters. That just tickles me.
Yeah, I think Aaron puts it really well that inscriptions are like graffiti on the digital megalith. And I like the fact that Bitcoin not only carries like our transactions, but also carries our weird, strange artifacts that leave some trace of ourselves there.
Awesome.
And then the alpha, unfortunately, there is no alpha. Everything is still TBD. We have no idea when we are going to actually release these or how we are going to release them or through which channel. The opposite of a fun alpha drop.
What I can say is obviously we're not just going for a quick cash grab because
we're going for a long, slow cash grab.
Like years of my life, and I don't know how much of your Bitcoin, but yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I'm glad we at least agreed that all moderators of panels about fun will receive one. So thank you so much.
Nice.
But all right. Well, thanks everybody, and thanks to Parker and Casey.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you so much, Nick.